All right, peeps. I have a whole bunch of wonderful people to read today. Obviously, these are not going to be full readings. They're going to be like very brief, like short ones. Thanks for everyone for giving me their selfie. Some of you DM'd me. Some of you, left them a post. Apologies if I sound weird today. Jack has a little bit of an allergy. But yeah, let's get right into it, right? So this is going to be brief readings. If I see, someone needs a full reading, I'll tell you, right? Some faces are more, you know, um, in depth than others. But yeah, this is going to be fun. So let's get right into it. Hopefully, I don't botch your names either. You guys have some of you have some crazy Twitter handles here. So, all right, I'll start with HK, my guy. So this is it's a very archetypal face. Firstly, a very interesting one. I see a lot of boldness, right? And okay, before I even begin, let me just do a disclaimer, okay? Okay, a lot of people, I don't know why, expect their face reading to be like this very abstract, almost like spiritually charged. Like, oh, I see some sort of I see a longing in your eyes or something along those lines, right? It's it's far more practical, and most of the times when I do these things, it catches people off guard just how practical it might be, right? Obviously, there's a spiritual element to it, but yeah, like what I'm about to say is mostly will have to do with the physical realm, with the material realm, because this is where we exist, and this is where your faces exist for the most part. So yeah, let's just keep this reading in particular to more practical things. Let's not go too much in depth. But yeah, let's do it. So HK over here, I see a lot of boldness, right? There's an inherent wisdom and open-mindedness that he has. He is not a narrow thinker by any means, right? So he's more of a periphery guy. Might have trouble concentrating on one particular task, right? Um, Generally, when you have energy like this, where you have the boldness to act, right, and a sort of a wide vastness, a wide array of, let's say, maybe like things you're interested in or things you find yourself doing, or your mind kind of like races back and forth between things. Yeah, it's difficult for this archetype to really come into its own without help, right? So this archetype gets lost a lot on the way because they have like almost like this ball of power, and if you put them in the right position, they're a situational genius type of thing, right? Where you put them in a position and you give them a wall, they'll gladly break through the wall, right? But if there is no wall, they get lost. They become lost. And this wall, like sometimes they have trouble finding it. They have trouble figuring out, like, hey, what's a wall that's worth it for me to go in and bash my head through? Get it? So I've seen this archetype quite a lot. It's a common archetype and very useful in the grander scheme of things. Like these people are like the doers, right? They're like the people who save the drowning puppy, right? Whenever everyone else is just kind of like staring in there and waiting for someone to act. This is the someone, right? This is the someone that acts. Now, I put that situation as the example because that is a moment where this archetype knows that it's the correct thing to do is act, right? But for you, HK, I can see that you're a little bit all over the place right now, my man. You're a little bit all over the place. You have, a few, unhealthy habits. They don't really show up that much on your face, but I can still tell. And you're a little bit all over the place, yeah, for sure. I can see that, Most of your charm, it just comes from doing. And most of your charm comes from doing that one particular thing, right? Not this multitude of things. So that's what I would tell you. Either get a partner or work on yourself to hold yourself accountable to do one thing at one particular time. Pick your wall, decide, Like indecision is your enemy, right? Your aura is like very weakened. It's like dampened when you're in a state of indecision. When you're in a state of bold decisiveness, that's where your charisma and abundance comes through. So that's what you need to work on, my friend. Right? You have a lot of boldness, but little ambition to go for the things you really like want. You're waiting for like this external messaging or validation, like, oh, this is what you should do and this is what you should do. You're waiting for your moment. You're waiting for your place in the sun. It's never going to come unless you go and find it yourself. That's my message to you for sure. I don't know if this resonates with you or not, but 100% focus on one thing. The dawn. I love it. I love it, you guys. I love it. The dawn. What can you tell the dawn? Okay, this is a person with a lot of factual knowledge, and this is a person who thinks in systems, right? This is a very interesting archetype because their whole life is basically constructed around this fortress of thought that they've basically built. And the more they fortify this fortress of thought with information, these are people who love information. And these are people who are not shy to learn from others. Like they literally just like they'll sponge up information like really well, and they're very involved and they're communicative to learn. It's not like they particularly enjoy like, you know, being around people or whatever, but they love being around people they can learn from. It's a very cool archetype with a sort of intensity to it, as you can see from the eyes, right? But I'll tell you what, the dawn. The more technically and materially, because you think in systems, my friend, the more technically and materially, how to say, you strengthen yourself, be very careful because the more emotionally vulnerable you become, right? And, you know, these are people who can't put their emotions within a system because emotions can't be put within a system. They don't follow any particular logic or, you know, predictability or whatever. So, yeah, look at the dawn. Like he has everything going for him. You can tell. He's in a good, you know, headspace. You know, he has that factual database that's helping him out. He lives a very structured life, you can tell. You know, I'm not saying he doesn't know how to have fun or anything like that, but I need to see emotional intellect. This is what this archetype struggles with almost all the time, right? And then you fall into like this state of irrationality, and it's difficult. And you know, it might have happened to you a few times, you know. And sometimes it does make this it might make you an unpleasant person, right? So that's kind of like where your mission is in general. Just this general imprint reading, like instead of like allowing that to make you into like someone who's ultra competitive and you know, trying to one up people, you have to receive that message from the universe, meaning like you have to work on this yourself, man, and you have to understand that it's your responsibility that you're emotionally vulnerable, and that opens you up to being emotionally manipulated, even sometimes from the people you love, which, you know, comes as a painful point, you know. But you know, it's a lesson you must learn, right? To not make yourself think you live or exist in this world that can be boiled down to some sort of system or a recipe or a formula. There are a lot of irrational things, a lot of free-flowing things in this life. It's some things you just have to accept. Some things you just have to allow to exist without fitting in your system. And once you accept that, everything becomes a lot easier. And the things that were emotionally troubling in the past are not going to trouble you as much any longer. And that acceptance allows you to make what is not within your system fit into your system, just as an independent, you know, object that just doesn't make sense, but it doesn't need to make sense. Get it? So stop wanting for everything in the world to make sense. Not everything is a system. sometimes you go with the flow. That's what I would tell the dog. We have double Mercury now. A very interesting contrast. Look at the contrast between these two. Like it's the absolute antithesis of one another, right? Look at that. A lot of rounded, spheric, circular, free-flowing energy. Very, creative-minded. Very, very like artsy, artistic-minded person. Someone who has just goes with the flow type of vibe. And these are your creatives, right? But these are your intellectual creatives. So they're not like they don't have like this primal energy. These are people who basically will take information in, work it out in their head, and then they'll just allow it to like pass on to the next person type of thing. Yeah, I see a good degree of emotional independence, learned emotional independence for life. That's very nice. I see like an easy communicative functions, or like an easygoing person. I do see a little bit of, I see a lack of ambition. So you probably know you can do more, but I see a lack of ambition, meaning that like, and you might not even notice this, you might not even resonate with this when I say it. You might be like, well, I think I'm doing fine, or something like that. But you could do more, 100%. Like, I think the issue with this archetype is it tends to fall into its own humbleness. And its own humbleness is sometimes the source of its downfall, right? Again, like if you compare the two, it's such a different. These are two very different people, right? I think they would like chill, right, if they had a conversation. But they have very drastically different ways of looking at the world, right? So we see on double Mercury here a lot of rounded spherical shapes. So this is a person who will kind of like exert energy, and this is an upgrader. So these are your people who like upgrade other people. These are people who upgrade concepts. These are people who like can take something and make it better, right? But that something first has to exist, right? Now the problem with this archetype usually is, like I said, they don't have, even though they have the ability and the skill set, they sometimes are too humble. They have a lack of that powerful will and like sheer drive to make the thing and then upgrade it, right? So they always resort to like this supportive state, which isn't bad for them, but it's not their highest expression. So once you've kind of like learned yourself that you can both create and then upgrade, that's the next level. Just try, honestly, like I'll say it like in really rough ways, try not to put yourself in this position where you have to be too much of a normie, right? Even though you're free flowing, even though you have like this sort of acceptance for the world, you have to understand that you can and should make your own mark on the world as well, right? Not everything, this archetype has a way of thinking like, just because something exists, its very existence validates its value. That's not true, right? And you have a lot of doubt about things that don't yet exist. That's the best way I can explain it. But you can create that thing, and then you can upgrade it, right? So you know how to make a thing that already exists better because you see value in it. This could be in relationships, a career, whatever. So you would rather like, what's a good comparison, right? If you built your own house and then upgrade it, it'd probably be a better house than the one if you like buy a house and then upgrade it. But it's like the safe way out, right? So think on that, double Mercury. Think on that concept. We've got Psychic Soldier over here, handsome young fella. Yeah, immediately you see, he's very broad-minded. He is very emotionally independent, highly emotionally independent. We see he's had, some, troubling times